So we have who's called the dealer and the feeler. The dealer is going to deal the force, okay? They deal the force. The feeler feels the force. Okay. Instead of a slash, I'm actually going to make that a comma. Comma. So make that a comma because these are always going to be in parentheses after our force notation. I know I had you guys in the system schema before write your hypothesis, but I want to explain to you what system schema is actually now. So you can write this off to the side, or you can, if you have room, you can add it in there. You could even probably write it right here. I'm just going to do an up arrow and write it here because I know you guys have stuff written in system schema. A system schema is what is involved in what we're looking at. So what is involved? I put all your stuff up here for you. So system schema is what is involved. So if we're looking at this problem, one book lies on top of a second book, which rests on a table. Our system schema for this one.
Let's go to the auditorium.
Yes, I think you go to the auditorium, and I already let Miss Taney Hill know. Would be book 1, book 2, table, and they all belong on Earth, right? So Earth is the other part of our system. So those would be part of our system schema. Does that make sense? So the 2 books, the table, and Earth, because Earth plays a role in it in terms of gravity. So now we need to look at our free body diagram. So we have our first object, which is book 1. I had you guys draw a picture, so I'm just going to kind of catch up to you. So I had you guys draw a picture, little table, and then we have 2 books. I'm going to call this top one, book 1, and the bottom one, book 2. Okay? Yeah. Yep, I already said. That's why I said I'm writing it up here to tell you what it is. So you're good. All right, so book 1. We're just going to focus on book 1 right now. I'm going to draw book 1 in blue. So book 1. That's book 1. What forces is it experiencing? It definitely has the force of gravity, right? Force of gravity. Opposite of gravity, what else does it have? Force normal, right? Something's holding it up. Force normal. All right, we need to talk about what's dealing and feeling these forces. So we're going to have a parentheses after each of these forces. We always say the dealer first and the feeler second. So who is dealing the force of gravity? Is it Earth, table, book 2, or book 1? Who's dealing gravity? Earth. Earth is dealing gravity. Earth is dealing gravity. Who is feeling that force of gravity then? Book 1. So we're just going to call that B1, okay? B1. So the Earth is dealing gravity, and book 1 is feeling that gravity on itself. For force normal, what is directly pushing up against book 1? What's dealing that upward force? Book 1 is right here. What's pushing up underneath of it? What's under it? Book 2, right? Is that what you were saying, Ian? Book 2. So the dealer for normal force is actually book 2. And who's feeling that upward push? Book 2 is pushing up, so who's feeling the upward push? Book 1. Our force of gravity and our normal force should be the same because that's a balanced system. Okay? All right, we're going to look, so object 1, we're just going to call this book 1, okay? Those of you guys who are at home, you guys can see my screen, correct? 2 is going to be book 2. Okay, so we're going to call this book 2. I'm going to do this in red. So book 2. All right, what is book 2 feeling? Book 1 and the table, okay. So we've got a force of gravity, right? Do we have a force of gravity? We have a force of gravity. And you said normal force? Actually, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to normal force. Let's just look at gravity first. And you said book 1, right? You said it was feeling book 1? Okay. So gravity, if we're looking at gravity, what is dealing gravity? What deals that? Earth. Okay, very good. So we've got Earth dealing gravity. And who is feeling that force? Book 2. Very good.
If you need anything, yes. All my kids are scheduled.
I was going to say that's your entire hour, isn't it?
Almost like 5.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, so if you need anything, call us.
I will. All right, so the force of gravity is something that book 2 is experiencing. But there's something else on top of it. So downward, it's feeling the force of gravity, but what else is it feeling downward? Something's sitting on it, right? Is it feeling that weight from book 1 maybe? It is. It's actually another normal force. So we're going to draw an arrow that comes down a little bit more. I'm actually going to get rid of that. It's a normal force. So it's force normal. The dealer of that force is book 1. It's the weight of book 1. Who's feeling the weight of book 1? Book 2. All right. So it has a normal force pushing down from book 1. It also has a force of gravity. And then it's going to have an upward force of what? What's my upward force? What's my upward force over here? Normal. How long should my upward force be? Are the books moving? No. So should my normal force equal the length of these 2 lines combined, or just specifically one of those 2 lines? Think about that again. Normal force should normally, if it's not moving, our length of lines in total should be equal, right? So we want our normal force to be about the same length as that one in total, okay? So normal force. Who is dealing the normal force? Who's pushing up on book 2? The table. So we're going to call that the force of the table, FT. Okay, force of the table. And who's feeling it? Book 2. All right. Earlier it said to highlight or circle our third pairs, or our third law pairs. Our third law pairs is our force normal here and here. Equal and opposite. Force normal, book 2 is the dealer, book 1 is the feeler. Force normal, book 1 is the dealer, book 2 is the feeler. Equal and opposite. Does that make sense? So the dealer and feeler switched. It's the same type of force, and the lines for these 2 should actually be roughly the same size. Okay. Something I want you to put a note on. And that is, notice the object of focus, or the one we're paying attention to, comes second in the parentheses. Because that's what's being felt. That's what's feeling the force. All right. So number 2 says a person exerts an upward force of 40 newtons to hold a bag of groceries. Wants us to draw a physical diagram of that. So your picture, just so we're all on the same page, we're gonna have a human holding some groceries. There we go. They're holding some groceries. Our schema, and you can write this up here, but we're gonna have the floor. We're gonna have the bag. We're gonna have the person. And what else would we probably have? Probably Earth, right? I picked up, so. All right, so I forgot to record, but our system schema, we've got floor, bag, person, Earth. Our first free body diagram, we have the person. The person is feeling some gravity, which is being dealt by Earth, but felt by the person. The person also has a normal force that is being exerted from the floor, so they're feeling the floor pushing up on them. The floor is the dealer, the person is the feeler. There's a third force that the person is feeling, and that's tension from the bag that they're holding. So the bag is dealing that force, but the person is feeling it. Looking at the bag has a force of gravity being dealt by the Earth and felt by the bag, and also has a force of tension because the person is holding the bag up. So the dealer is the person, the bag is the feeler. We also needed to look at the third law pairs. So third law pairs are going to be what are equal in terms of force there, but they're going to have opposite dealer and feelers. So looking at this, our force of tension is our third law pairs. So for the person, the force of tension is coming from the bag, who the bag's dealing it, the person is feeling the weight of the bag pulling down on them. But if you look at the bag, the force of tension is opposite. The force of tension is upward from the person holding the bag up, and the bag is feeling that upward hold. All right, so our next problem reads, a magnet is suspended from the ceiling by a string. So we have the magnet being suspended from the ceiling by a string. A second magnet is being held up by the first magnet. So it wanted us to draw a physical diagram of the situation. This is just my drawing. So we have a string, we have the ceiling, we have magnet 1 and magnet 2. Our system schema is actually very easy. It's going to be our, thank you, Brooklyn. So our system schema is going to be pretty easy. It's going to be M for our magnet, or magnets, and just Earth. Okay, so that's our system schema for this one. Magnets and Earth. Okay? So we're going to do magnet 1 as our first object. So magnet 1. I want you guys to take a second and see if, with your own brain power, if you could figure out what you think the diagram could look like for magnet 1 now that we've done 2 practice ones, okay? So what do you think it might look like? Make sure you write it in pencil or write really light so you can scratch it off if you need to. And then we will go through it together, okay? So give that one a try. Look at this one. All right, what is a force that object 1 is experiencing? Gravity, okay. We got force of gravity. Force of gravity. Who is dealing that force? Who is feeling it? Okay, so we've got Earth dealing, magnet 1 feeling. What about another force? What's another force that we would be experiencing? What's that?
Tension.
Tension. What direction is tension going to go? Up. Very good. Our force of tension. Force of tension. The line for tension should be longer than the force of gravity because remember, tension's actually holding up both magnets, right? But they're not moving. So you want your tension line to be decently long. Who is dealing the tension? The string. Who is feeling it? Magnet 1. Very good. Is there any other forces that we might be feeling? What about magnet 2? Would it be feeling magnet 2? We could call it a normal force down. Something we haven't talked about yet, so I'm going to introduce it to you right now, is so normal force is 100% correct, but there is another force. There's a force called magnetism. We haven't really talked about it yet. But there is a FM, so I'm introducing it to you now, and that is magnetism. So new force for you guys to learn, force of magnetism. So normal force could have been correct, but for this one, since we are introducing that, we're going to call it a force of magnetism, correct? But that's going to go down, right? So we're going to have a force of magnetism. Who's dealing that? Magnet 2, who's feeling it? Magnet 1. Very good. All right, with knowing that, I want you guys to take a second and try to draw your free body diagram for magnet number 2. What is a force that magnet number 2 is experiencing? Gravity. Very good. Gravity. Who is dealing that force? Earth. Who is feeling it? Magnet 2. Very good. What's another force that's experiencing? Magnetism. What direction? Up. And how long should the line be? Or should it be equal to any other lines? Is it the same force that's between on the other one? Is it the same magnetism that's over here? So the length of the line should be pretty similar, right? So you've got force of magnetism. Who's dealing it this time? Magnet 1. And who's feeling it? Magnet 2. All right, so what are my pairs in this one? What are my equal and opposite pairs, or my third law pairs? What force is it? Is my third law pair force? FM. So on magnet 1, don't call the police. On magnet 1, we've got a force of magnetism pointing downward. Pretty good. The dealer is magnet 2, the feeler is magnet 1. On magnet 2, we've got a force of magnetism that's opposite because it's going up. The dealer is magnet 1, the feeler is magnet 2. Equal but opposite. Does that make sense? You're good.
I was eager. It just happened.
All right. Let's look at question number 4.
Didn't I actually just call them?
They'll usually talk to you. They don't send someone right away.
Uh-oh.
I've done the timer.
Wait, so then they're going to send someone?
No, they're not going to. You're good. All right, suppose you're sitting on a chair on the ground. Draw a well-balanced force diagram for your body in the chair. Show relative sizes of the forces. Blah, blah, blah. So we're going to have a chair. Oops. Chair. Okay, so we got our chair. I'm going to draw me. There's me sitting in a chair. Our system schema would be the person, The chair. What else? Earth. What else? What's the chair sitting on? The ground or floor. Okay, so that's our system schema. Me, chair, earth, ground. I want you guys to try to draw a free body diagram for the person to start. And then we'll do the chair next. So draw your force diagram for the person. All right, so with number 4, just looking at the person. Ooh, that shocked me. What is a force that they are experiencing? Gravity. Okay. Force of gravity. Who is dealing that gravity? Who is feeling it? Good. What else are they experiencing? Normal force. What direction does that go? Up. Okay, normal force. Who is dealing that normal force? The chair. Very good. Who's feeling it? Person. Awesome. All right. Looking at our chair. What is a force that the chair is feeling? Gravity. Okay. So chair is feeling gravity. Who's dealing the gravity? Who's feeling it? Chair. Go. What else are they experiencing? Do they feel anything from the person?
Yes.
What direction is that force from the person going to be? The person's sitting on the chair. Down, right? What kind of force would that be? Applied. We'll just go with normal. Does that sound fair? Normal? Because they're sitting. They're not like meaning to. So we're going to have a force normal. Who's dealing that on the chair? The person who's feeling it? The chair. Guess what? It should be equal to that, right? Okay. What else is the chair experiencing? A force normal going upwards. That force normal should be about the same length as the other 2 lines combined. Who is dealing that upwards normal force? The ground. And who is feeling it? The chair. So what are my pairs? Or what is my pair in this one? My third law pair. Force normal. Which ones?
The person.
The one on the person? So force normal here. And the other one with the chair in person? Okay. Very good. Awesome. Are we feeling okay about this? Ish? Getting there? All right, so tomorrow,